Hey everybody, Brian here from quantlabsnet.com. Today is June 27th. Today in this video, we're going to talk about from here on efinancialcareers.com about basically hedge fund technology jobs are a nightmare. You're better off at a mutual fund. So I can speak firsthand here as well. So let's get into this article. I'll put in my opinion here as well. If you're a software developer with fantasies about to moving to a hedge fund, pursuit of big money than some of the predecessors, we had similar sensations. We've got a warning for you from the hedge fund technology jobs. The pay is great, and that's why. But there's the other side of it as well, which people never hear about. So, many developers fantasize that they're going to land a 350K job at a big multi-strat fund. They don't realize how stressful it is, says one senior technologist who worked in the industry. Yeah, I can say the same. I worked on a trading desk, top floor, top security clearance for about, I don't know, 3, 4 months. I was there as a contractor, not as a part of the firm, a big one here in Toronto. It's a lot of stress. For me, I learned a lot about the security that's in place. And I can't really, I won't even comment on it, but I'll just say this. It's a pressure cooker. I knew people who were head of trading desks that were on all kinds of pills and they weren't even 35 and they were always in probably high anxiety mode because the pressure's on. So that doesn't matter if it's um, automated or trading as a human, discretionary. um, Pressure wherever you are in that kind of role is going to be there. So this when this person said, when I worked in a macro fund in London, there was usually at least one situation a week where imagine where I thought I could be fired once a week, and there are only 2 work days from home, Saturdays and Sundays. Um, Working in technology for hedge fund is a young person's game, says another senior US developer who developed for one of the top funds in the industry before leaving for a startup. I knew there I would I knew when I would come home, we had a town hall where a former Olympic rower who was working there stood up and said it was like he was rowing the hardest he rowed in his life, and he looked around and saw everyone doing the same. It's like working at the Special Forces or Marine Corps. That's just what it's like there. It's okay if you don't have a family. I think it's more than just not having a family if you're single. The other thing you got to factor in is if you don't mind sitting in front of a computer uh, day in and day overnight. Um, that's all you live for, solving problems, and at the same time, you're pretty well a genius. Just knowing you'll be well compensated. There's many cultures that live like that, and it works for them. And some of the people in the West, as this one person said, maybe you're better off in a mutual fund. I know my way as well. And even though I'm sitting here, so-called, maybe some people may think bashing this type of industry. No, there's other paths in this industry, self-employed and doing things your own way, building your own technology solutions, doing your own trading ideas, implementing them. But it's your money, not somebody else's. That's the difference. But you are still being compensated for these type of jobs. So continuing along, it's not just the working conditions though. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is even though you have this Saturdays and Sunday off, you will be in your brain constantly thinking about your job, constantly thinking, will he see it another week? Or if you're really good, you'll be obsessed with trying to improve scenarios, strategies, whatever in your brain 24/7. You will be fully attached to that, and it'll be very hard for yourself physically and mentally and spiritually be able to detach from that when that amount of pressure. And as you move up, that sense of responsibility goes up as well. Okay, so continuing along, it's not just the working conditions. We spoke to multiple technologists who've worked for major hedge funds, each of them off record. They all said the same thing. The technology stacks at big hedge funds are a challenge. And I can also attest to this as well. The legacy code problem is pretty bad for many of the established funds. Uh, many of the funds are Many of these funds are 20 to 30 years old. I think a great example would be Renaissance Technologies. And there's some fairly old parts of their tech stack. I've worked in banks and they're still using mainframes from the 60s. That's the ultimate backend that they have. All those accounts, banking accounts, are stored on these systems. These could be System 36s. And here in Toronto, those systems back in the day were sitting in, before data warehouses came around, they were sitting in data centers at IBM with high security that IBM staff had, and no one else could get clearance for that. That's how the banks operated. But that was locally within my city of Toronto. And many banks were like that when it came to having IBM store the data, not own the data, but manage the data. And that's going all the way back to all the sensitive banking deposit stuff. And I don't know how it is now, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's the same, where a lot of that technology will not move. That technology will, I don't know. You might have a different front end, you might have a different middleware, but the data source of where it's at is still going to be there. If somebody can verify that for me, give me a comment. So as a result, the technology becomes more and more like a dinosaur as time passes. In my case, we're going all the way back to the 60s. System 36s from IBM. Okay, banks. Banks have legacy code issues as well. I just gave examples, not specifically. We only have 5 banks, so it's going to be one of those 5 banks here in Canada. But the problems can be worse than hedge funds. Senior U.S. developer says funds historically have an attitude: if you get money, you have crazy uh, leap behind the scenes, and that means both that the code base is a mess and that no one bothered leaving comments to explain it. I could give you horror stories that I was put under. The priority is getting the bleep done. You can tell this guy sounds like he's pretty angry about it. You get this code that works in weird ways where one guy knew how it worked and left it years ago, and you're expected to pick it up. Oh my God, I've been that in that, what I call a hornet's nest, and you're expected to just miraculously be able to decipher it, where people out there will purposely um, develop code that is like, so in the world that I come from, the code has to be mnemonic. It's not mnemonic, not readable. You don't know what it means. And especially when you get into things like C or C++, have fun trying to reverse engineer that. The head of technology operations at major fund confirms that it is an issue and is endemic in the industry. A lot of old tech with poor documentation. And I just read some guy has developed some kind of AI where he'll go in and will remove all comments from Python. This is why people put comments in code. So, especially in enterprise level operations, hedge funds, banks, whatever, they're in those have policies in place to ensure that the next person that handles it and the next person is responsible for it to maintain it understands what it is. So it's no longer a hornet's nest. Unfortunately, people that don't know the technology, they're the project managers, the people that are at the higher management levels, will never understand that. But that's the olden days. Now we have AI to so-called change all that. I don't know how they'll proceed with that. In many cases, whoever created it is gone, and some poor guy needs to figure it out or rewrite it, and they got to do it today and got to be done by tomorrow. That kind of pressure. But then again, it's not modular, and you have spaghetti infra with every tangled together. Yeah, I can attest. And if you're not able to decipher it, reverse engineer it, and get new versions up and running within a day, those managers will call you useless and you don't know the technology. And they take highly offense when you say that to them. That's why I never went back to the banks or went back to any of these operations. Couple this with a need to ensure the systems are functioning 24/7. That's another thing. The attitude, as long as it's working, don't need to fix it, don't touch it. It's evident why people leave. The shouting is better than it used to be. Can you imagine this? Says one U.S. developer. Quants aren't yellers and screamers, but there's still a lot of stress. We had a rule you could not shout, that you could shout about the system, but not about the individual. So you can imagine you go in there, you have a person, they quit, whatever, and now you got to be parachuted in there to take over that code and maintain it, and then you get blamed for the problem. And the real problem lies on the managers that had that person in place and ensuring that the person that was responsible for that code didn't properly document for the next person. They never get it. If you're thinking of moving into hedge fund tech, some areas of the stack may be better than others. The CEO says the back end middle office stacks are often the most laden with impenetrable and ancient code. Ancient code. Hornet's nest. I think equities tech and trading tech is a nice place to be. Can't say, don't know. However, there are many better options. This London based developer we spoke to now works for a mutual fund and says his life has greatly improved. Earn a good salary for a mutual fund and can work 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. 4 days a week. US developer now works at a startup at 15 to 20 years of seeing the outcome of previous bad decisions. It's nice to be building something from the bottom up. So again, just so you know, you got my experience. You've also got these people's experience through this article. So again, if you want to know more, come to quantlabsnet.com. You'll see the opt-in stuff. You want a free book for C++ and HFT, just put your info in there and you will get it right away. And I don't release anybody's information. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.